Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we are looking at my newest custom, which is an original design from one of my customers. He is an artist himself, and he designed a look for Spawn, and so he asked me to make that look for him. Now, I don't know if he designed the look intentionally to look like this Iron Man armor, but it's almost exactly the same as this Iron Man armor, with obviously all of the Spawn details added on. So he provided me with the character turnaround of his concept art, and then we went to town making it. So this is his version of the anime Spawn, and I'll go ahead and talk about most of it while it's just rotating on the stand, because it doesn't really benefit anybody for me to just hold it. I will take it off the stand so we can take a closer look at it, but basically it's the Marvel Legends Extremis, or any of those variations of that armor. I think we have 3, maybe 4 different figures on this body, so it doesn't really matter which one, but it's that Iron Man suit, and then there's a whole lot of modification to it. The first of which, I guess we could start at the feet. I reshaped the feet because it had those little nubbins sticking off the front, the little 2 prongs on the toes, so those are now gone. Not a big deal there, but that happened. And then the ankles on that figure were really lousy. They were just a peg with a hinge, so they were a swivel hinge. And so it allowed you to rotate the foot around the ankle, and then you had a hinge, but you couldn't do any posing really with it because of how it was designed. So I gutted the ankles and shins and the feet, and I resculpted the insides of the feet and the insides of the ankles, and I put a whole new hinge system in there from an SH Figuarts figure. So he's got full ball hinge ankles now. The hips are still a little bit limited. I couldn't really do much about that, so posing's not going to be fantastic for this guy, but at least his ankles work as good as any ankles can, or as well as any ankles can. So his ankles are completely redone. Then on his left leg, I just sculpted the bands and then put spikes in them. And on the right leg, I just put spikes into the boot that was already there. And so that, I mean, it sounds very simple, but there's a particular way you have to insert spikes like this in order for them to not just fall off as soon as you try to touch the figure. So I had to do all of that, and obviously I sculpted the bands. So I did that, and then he wanted the knee pad. Let's turn it so you can see the knee pad. He wanted the knee pad on the right leg to be the same as the shoulder pads, but those are just a little bit too wide, a little bit too big for where we wanted them. So instead of using one of those, I decided to just go ahead and recreate one of those by sculpting my own to have the same look and everything, but it was a lot smaller. So I sculpted that onto the right leg to be part of that boot / knee pad area. Then, moving on up for the rest of the body, we had to do something about the belt area and the, I guess it's really chains, not really a belt. So I took off those little weird circular pads that the Iron Man had because those were just kind of pointless. And I put the skull on for the center part of the belt. And then I took some chains from the Ghost Rider figure from the same wave of figures, I think. And I used those chains after some relatively heavy modification to the chains to make them work on his belt area, so those are connected onto there. And then moving up, I had to do something about the M logo on his torso and chest. So I couldn't sculpt anything down here just because it had to go inside this diaphragm joint, and the diaphragm joint still does work. So what I did was I couldn't add to it, so I took away, so I actually carved out the lines for the M on there. And then on the top part of the chest, you can see here, it's the same on the back as on the front. I actually sculpted that. It doesn't go down as far in the back to avoid any issues with the joint there, and it didn't really need to because he's got this and another cape that hides it. But on the front here, you can see I just continued the M all the way up and around by sculpting it and sanding it down real fine, so it just looks like it's part of the armor. But before I could do the M, I had to resculpt the chest entirely because it had the Iron Man repulsor thingy on there. So that was all done, and I put a panel down the center of the chest to have like pectoral plates you can see, or a panel line. I put a panel line down there. So that was that. And then for the shoulder pads, this shoulder pad is fine. We were going for the asymmetrical look, so it's just solid black. And then on this side, it is just a standard shoulder pad, but I actually thickened it a little bit and obviously added the spikes. So that has the spiky look. Those spikes are a little bit heavier duty than the spikes on the bottom half of the body, just to give them a little bit more of an aggressive look. For this head, this is actually the Blizzard head. And I just painted it black and then painted the white part on there and did some airbrushing. So I'll get to the paint later, but it's just a Blizzard head, but it actually is the perfect look for Spawn once you put the right paneling on there. So we just stuck with the Blizzard head, but he also has 2 interchangeable heads. I can show you those right now. So we do have one of the hamburger head. So this is actually off of one of the old Spawn figures. I happen to have it lying around, and it fits in size wise. So I just repainted the whole thing to look the way I wanted it to look, to work on that. And then all of the heads interchange with a magnet system, so they're all easily swapped out. And then we also have an anime version of just his unmasked head, so nothing really to look at there, just repainted with some green pupils. Um, I guess we can go ahead and take it off the stand so you can have a closer look at it. I just don't want to handle it all that much because I literally just finished it, and I had to shoot reviews. So we're kind of making do here. But I guess let's talk about accessories. So we do have the scarf, which is just a NECA Ninja Gaiden Ryu scarf that's been repainted and slightly modified, and that's just sitting on there. It actually fits on the figure very well. So it just sits on there, and so that's pretty much that. I just repainted it, and I forgot, I did all this. I tattered it all up. I gave it a ton of battle damage to look like bullet holes and burn holes and tears and stuff. So we did that, and then he also has another interchangeable not scarf, but he's got this piece, which is from the Hope Summers, which I think is actually from the same wave of Marvel Legends. Very useful wave for this guy. And so I just painted this thing up red. I left it black in here because the black is a little bit less likely to rub off onto the white part of the M on his back. But he also has this, and I modified the neck so that this fits on him. And you'll see how this looks in the photos, but this and the other scarf actually just, like within a couple of hours, got clear coated. So I can't really put it on right now, but you will see it in the photos. We are using these guys. Finally have a good use for these guys. They happen to be like the perfect neon green for Spawn, so we're making use of them. My customer wanted them, so what the heck? He's going to have these neon green energy effect. Necroplasm, is that what it is? As you can see, he's got hands to hold these accessories, so those, I don't know which hands those are, but there's some Marvel Legends hands that I cut up so that he could have trigger fingers. And I modified the pegs so that they're interchangeable. And then we do, of course, have, because why not, for style posing purposes, if I can pick them up, we have the different Iron Man hands. It's probably not going to focus on those right now because I'm using both my hands and I can't make it focus, and maybe it will. Anyway, we have the Iron Man hands just for style pose purposes. And then, of course, you can see already we have this gun, which is really just a Marvel Legends gun that I repainted to have some black grips and a fully metallic main body, and then I added some green detailing on there. And then we also have this sword. He really wanted a really big sword for this anime version of Spawn, so this is I believe this is Odin's sword, right? Or the sword that went with Thor. Either way, it's whatever one of those whatever. And so I just repainted the whole thing. I gave it a really nice metallic paint job for the blade, gave it a dark gunmetal paint job for this part and the back part here, and then I put the green whatever color in there for detail purposes. So that's that. And then for the main figure, as far as paint goes, he wanted a very flat paint job, and I'm fine with that because I love flat paint jobs. I think they look awesome. So the whole thing was painted in flat paint, but then in order to make it an even flatter, nicer finish, I used a Tester's dull coat on top of that. So we have the red. Well, it was painted all black. Okay, and then I sprayed with my airbrush all of the white because white is notoriously difficult to get smooth, and I wanted it to look nice and smooth. So the white was all sprayed, and then I went in and painted the red by hand with a nice flat red, mixed it up so that I could most of the times when I use red, it's a custom blend, and that's true for this also. So I made up a red paint that worked nicely for what we were doing. Painted that all by hand, took about 1 billion coats because red sucks to paint also, but I didn't want to airbrush it, so we didn't do that. And then I went back in and did all the panel lining with black again, and then I did a little bit of airbrushing to have like this grayish blue shading. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera. Sometimes this kind of shading shows up way too bright, and then sometimes it doesn't show up at all. It's actually very, very subtle, so hopefully that's showing up properly on camera. I don't know, but we'll see. So I did all that, and then at that point, all the chains and spikes were still black because I wanted those to not be flat, so I painted those last with a nice metallic silver, and then I painted the skull with the flat skull colors for the belt buckle. And then the eyes got a nice gloss coat, and then you can see, hopefully you can see, over here, each of the arms has this little spot on there that was actually in his design, and it happens to be part of the system for the elbow for the figure, so there's a little green spot in there for part of the armor. And then there's also, hopefully you guys can see it, yeah, I think you can. His leg has 3 little like cutouts with little dots in there, and so I painted those dots to have that neon green also, just to give it a little bit of a nice nice little tiny pop of color in there. So that's about it. I guess there's nothing left for me to say. So I'm going to let this guy sit for a while and wait, and then I'll pose him, and you guys will see some photos of him at the end here. But that's it. I really enjoyed working on this. I really like this look for Spawn, and I really like this color scheme, which is just the general Spawn color scheme for the most part. But I'll tell you what, I was really excited to make... Oh, I never talked about the elbow spikes. I added elbow spikes also. That's all I have to say. I don't need to get into that anymore. There's elbow spikes on there too. Anyway, I was really excited to make some Spawn figures, so I made that one more traditional Spawn with the cloth cape and all the fancy stuff there, and then I made this one with all this fancy stuff here. I'm done with Spawn. I'll tell you what, these spikes, not fun to put in. It's a total pain in the butt, so I don't want to do another Spawn figure, but I suppose I may if another customer comes up with a cool design. But there it is. There's my newest custom Gil. I hope you like it, man. I really enjoyed working on it. Even though those spikes suck, it was still a real fun project to work on, so hopefully you're happy. I'm pretty sure you will be. And I guess you guys can all let me know what you think about it too. And then we'll call it there. So thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And in the meantime, keep collecting.